Before we had the math for frequencies and vibration, there was just something like a baseline hum. Not a cosmic breath, not a divine decree. Just the sound of a massive system under tension. Somewhere in that noise, a thought gathered. Not holy, not cosmic, just curious. What if I became something? What if I said something? Every story begins there. A small what if with dirt under its fingernails. And usually that what if sounds a lot like exhaustion, like being too tired to keep lying to yourself. Because here's the part nobody advertises. Becoming isn't pretty. It's work. It's friction. It's the blood on the teeth of enlightenment. Everybody wants to glow. Nobody wants to burn. People talk about shifts in consciousness as though the universe is going to do their homework. As if a solar flare will realign their personality or a moon portal will finally delete their childhood trauma. No. You don't download awakening. You earn it. One heartbreak, one relapse, one night shift at a time. Light without labor is a screensaver. The real stuff is forged. So when the marketplace gets loud and everybody starts selling their new vibration, you don't bow to it. You listen. You test the signal, and then you decide if it's real, or if it's just more noise. And not as an elite tribunal, not as vibes, but as a lens that you can use to separate the signal from the story. Because the frequency that matters most isn't out in the vacuum. It's physical. It's the density of sitting alone in a room with your own nervous system and refusing to flinch. That is the whisper before the word. The pause where you get to choose which circuits to break or bridge. For 30 years, I carried a voice inside my head that hated me for dreaming. Wasn't even creative about it. Every time I tried to reach for something more, it would mutter that same line. Who the fuck do you think you are, kid? And it wasn't just a thought in my head. It was a taste in my mouth. It felt like dirty water in my lungs. Because I believed it far longer than I should have. Because doubt runs a flawless camouflage. It mimics the weight of logic, broadcast like a frequency of protection. It pretends to be a load-bearing wall when all it's really doing is shrinking the room. Small is easier than shattered. Safe is easier than seen. But safe is just another word for stuck. Safe is how you end up 60 years old, staring at a ceiling, wondering where the hell the fire went. So one night, 3 a.m., coffee cold, city humming in its sleep. The voice shifted. It stopped guarding. It started guiding. My system finally stopped attacking itself, and it actually started to hold the line with me. And I wish I could say that I flipped the switch by doing some ancient breath work or something. I didn't. I think my psyche just got too exhausted to keep funding the Civil War. No drama, no profound moment, no eureka, no psychosis. Just a quiet turning of the inner tide. The old light and the new ache finally colliding in the same time and space without shattering the container. Click. That was the beginning of the remembering. Not revelation, reversal. Now, obviously, I'm no guru. Clearly, I'm no mountaintop sage radiating ancient peace. I can't say what's real for you. All I can do is name what's proved real for me and share it as a method for standing firm inside an unstable world. At the end of the day, I'm just a gay, uneducated, half-breed night shift worker who talks to drunks and ghosts in equal measure. But I've seen and I've lived through a lot, and I've survived my own head long enough to call it home. I didn't set out to study meaning. I just learned how to compulsively mine it out of the wreckage. Along the way, I've learned how to turn my breakdowns into blueprints, find the sacred hiding inside the sarcasm, and to recognize that most truths arrive broadcasting on a fuzzy signal. I'm not handing out a map here. I am sharing the schematics for a psychic crowbar. There's only one thing that I truly trust inside the raw mechanics of my own nervous system. Enthusiasm is kinetic. Not the polished, manicured kind we post online, but the fierce, stubborn pulse that cuts through the rot and it says, this matters. Pain will tell you what's broken. Enthusiasm tells you what's still alive. And if you can't find your enthusiasm today, find your righteous anger. They can burn the same fuel. That is the earned flame. And I still hear the old voice sometimes. It still asks, who do you think you are? I don't have a cinematic hero's moment where I smile and banish it. The voice still haunts me. It still exhausts me. But the difference now is the inner physics. I know where to put my focus. I'm the guy that turns towards the heat and speaks anyway. Because the word was never theirs to give. It was always mine to ignite. It sounds arrogant until you realize how terrifying it is when you notice you're the one holding the matches. And honestly, most days, ignition is exhausting. That's why it's earned. The flame doesn't care if you're tired. It just wants to be fed. And so if the baseline hum is just the sound of a system trying to hold itself together, then the flame is what happens when a human being remembers their part in it. In that small, stubborn human beginning where becoming is earned. One breath, one bruise, one truth at a time. From here, the story doesn't look up at the sky, but goes further inward. We turn the lights off in the skull and map the architecture in the dark. Because remembering isn't cosmic. Isn't just cosmic. It's localized. It happens in the meat and the bone. But it starts the same way a star does. Not with a whisper, but with enough pressure and enough friction to finally force a reaction.